Tonight we're going to be talking about flipping. This is, just as setting an expectation. This is not something I specialize in. I have done flips before. I've done one in Cape Town. I've done a couple in Joburg, but this is definitely not something that I would say I'm an expert in. I understand the principles and I understand how it works, but I'm not the person that's the expert in this. Just as the expectation. So you might throw some questions at me tonight that I can't answer. If you do have a question, please put it in the chat bar, and then every 15 or so minutes, I'm going to target them. Now, the main principle of a flip is you take the house on the left, you turn it into the house on the right, you force the value to go up by renovating it, fixing it, making it cleaner, nicer, better, and then selling it for a substantial profit. That's pretty much the concept. So the idea is to buy low, buy at a massive discount, sell at a premium, and you do that by forcing appreciation by adding value. And we're going to talk about the different ways in which you can add value, but the key concept is you have to buy low, force up, sell at a premium. That's how you make this specific strategy work. For those of you who don't know me, and I'm pretty sure that everybody on the call knows me now, my name is Lawrence. I'm sometimes referred to as the multi-let guy, or the guy from the myapp.property app, or the best looking guy in the room. Just kidding. I'm never referred to as that. I'm referred to as the guy that makes a lot of bad dad jokes. Oftentimes my humor is wasted on me because I'm the only one who laughs. But yeah, I've been in the property game for about 7-8 years. I did the whole corporate thing. It didn't work for me. And I found, a side hustle in property. I do have a new book coming out. It's called Millionaire in the Making. It'll be out in August, I think. Yeah, August. And I also have another book, Financial Freedom Through Property, which... yeah, cool. Let's look at the agenda. Going to start by taking you guys through how to run the numbers on a flip. Then we'll look at 3 live case studies. So we'll look at a couple of my students who are doing flips. Like I said, it's not something I do a lot of, but there's a lot of people in the South African market that are making a lot of money off this. How to complete due diligence, inspections, renovations, and management remotely. And that's the key thing that I want to focus on tonight is, if you're living in Cape Town, Durban, wherever you're living, you don't have to necessarily invest in the area that you're living in. Yes, it's easier and it's maybe a little bit more satisfying that you can go and view a property, but it's not a limitation. And part of what I try and teach people is to create a remote system. Maybe your first or second or even third property you do live in the moment, or you go and view the property, but eventually you want to be living in Fiji or Spain or wherever it is and still investing in property. So I try and target my approach to a remote type of investment. And then right at the end, I'll just show you how I made 450 profit without actually seeing the property, which is quite cool. The property flip. Okay. There are 3 key things that you need in order to make a flip successful. Number 1, you need motivation. You have to buy at a discount. You need someone who's going through a divorce, financial difficulties, been retrenched, looking to relocate, and that's why they're selling their property, but they need to be able to sell at a discount, so you need a distressed seller or a motivated seller. Location's important. Your flips tend to work in your middle to higher income, your suburbs, more often than not, because you've got a bigger pool of people to sell to. With that being said, I'm going to show you a deal tonight where someone flipped a property in the CBD in a city. So it's definitely not something that's only possible in your higher income areas. It tends to work a little bit more regularly with your medium to high income areas. And then lastly, you need equity, right? Buying into a new build is an example of a terrible flipping strategy. You need to be going to your older areas, places like, what comes to mind is Kempton Park. For me, is a great example of an area that's got high motivation. It's middle to high income. The location's great because it's close to the airport. It's booming, and the equity's there because there are a lot of old properties, a lot of paid off properties, and if there's no bond, the seller, might be more inclined to take a cheeky offer. If someone bought a property last year for R1 million and their bond is R1 million, they're probably not going to take an offer of 700,000. Even if they say yes, the bank is going to say no. But if they bought a property for R1 million 20 years ago and they've got 100,000 Rand left on their bond, they might consider a 700,000 Rand offer because, that's what I mean when I say equity. Let's say you find this this house out of a horror movie and you see it as an opportunity, what steps can you take to now analyze and determine if this is a good flip opportunity or not? The first thing you have to do is you have to begin with the end in mind. Okay. So if you were to renovate this property, take it from the horror movie to what you're seeing now, nice curb appeal, new kitchen, new bathroom, retiled, repainted, everything looks really lacquer. What could you sell this for? That's your first step in your due diligence, right? I call this the comparative analysis. There's many different names for it. As an example, let's say that the selling price is 1.5 million. The way you can determine this is often a question I get is through a tool called Lightstone or Windeed. They both do a very similar thing. Lightstone allows you to basically pull a report on the property that you're looking at. Here's property X, and then you can see the numbers 5, 1, and 2. Those are recently sold properties that you can compare to. So you can see what did property 5, 1, and 2 sell for, get an average of those numbers, and you can get a pretty rough estimation as to what the value of this property might be. So here's just a bit more detail. You can see property 1, 2, and 5. I like to take the rand per square meter figure here. I like to get an average of that, and then I times it by whatever the land size is of the property that I'm looking at. So a really simple calculation, average of the rand per square meter times the property size will give you, in my opinion, probably the most accurate figure of what you could resell it for, right? So this example is taking those 3 numbers divided by 3, gives you 1,256 times that by 850, which is the land size of this property on this Lightstone report. Let's call it 1.06. It's pretty much what you can sell it for. So that's step 1. What if you had to renovate it? What could you sell it for? Number 2, obviously there's going to be costs associated to forcing the appreciation. So your buying costs, these are costs associated to purchasing a property, bond, transfer fees, transfer duties, those kind of things. You can get that off Uber. Your refurb costs, this is where you get a building inspector or a builder or contractor, or maybe you have the experience yourself to walk through the property and accurately estimate what work needs to be done to get it to that, end state. Holding costs associated to holding the property. So usually when you're flipping, let's say you take transfer on the 1st of June, it's probably going to take you 2 or 3 months to do the renovation, depending on the extent of the renovation, and then probably 3 to 4 months to sell, right? That's more or less the average time it takes to sell, assuming you've got a fair market price. If you're completely overinflated, you're never going to sell. So it's going to take you, let's say, 7 to 12 months, depending on the size of the renovation. During those months, you're going to have to pay levies, rates and taxes, insurance, water and electricity, whatever it is to essentially hold that asset while you're, waiting for it to sell. And then the selling costs is 2 things: your COC, your certificate of compliance, which is like $5,000. It's not a lot. And then your estate agent's commission. I've just put some random numbers here so that, I can show you what the formula is. So this is 300,000. The third step is you need to determine your profit. And the reason why you want to determine it upfront is because you're going to minus what your profit is from your offer, right? So if your max offer is $1 million and you want to make 200,000, then you have to offer 800,000, right? So you almost see your profit as an expense item to deduct off your offer price. In this case, if I wanted to make 200,000 Rand profit, the formula is really simple, right? Your offer price on this specific investment will be what you can sell it for, i.e. market value in future state, minus the costs it's going to take you to get there, minus the profit you hope to achieve, gives you your offer price of R1 million. Now, it seems really simple. The tricky part of flipping is, number 1, keeping to budget and timelines with your renovation. That's a huge risk. And number 2, no one really knows what you can sell a property for in 6 months' time. Yes, we can use Lightstone. Yes, we can look at Property 24 and speak to every agent. But at the end of the day, we don't know that we're going to sell it for 1.5 in 6 months' time. It might take us a bit longer to sell. We might not get the price that we want. So that's why this is probably not the strategy that I've gravitated towards as much as the buy-to-let market, because I feel like I can know with more certainty where my return's going to come from, versus this one is a bit more gambly for me. But yet, the proof is in the pudding. There's a lot of money to be made in this strategy. So the key to success, and if you've got a pen or paper, please write this down: forced appreciation. This is where the money is made. If you're not able to add value and improve or appreciate the property, then you're not going to make a good profit off the flip. So let me show you an example of adding value. Now this is an investor who bought in Faramir, which is, I don't know this place so well, but it's in the East Rand. You can see there's the Oliver Tambo Airport. This is how the house looks like on the outside. Please excuse the photos; they aren't great. It was taken with a phone. And this is basically what the house looks like. This is, in my mind, the perfect flip. Right? If we start on the bottom left here, the toilets and the bathroom, when you start seeing avocado colored things, then you know that it's old. I saw the other day like a navy blue bathtub. And that's a thing with older houses. Older houses tend to have very colorful bathrooms. I mean, you can see the tiles, the bathroom. This has not been touched in 20 years. This is the style of 20, 30 years ago. Also, these archways, very common to older properties. So you're looking for your older, rundown, not really modern. This is not appealing to a young couple. They don't want to move into this kind of property. Does that make sense? That's kind of the property that we want to be looking for. Now look at the after photos. Now this is what being a flipper, for lack of a better word, is. Coming in, ripping out all the carpets and all the tiles, placing a nice laminated wood, repainting, putting some nice work on the outside, the curb appeal. This looks really nice. Nice garden, keep it clean, keep it cut. Kitchen, open plan, big, spacious. That's the trend these days. Bathroom, look at this bathroom, how much it's been improved just by making it look a little bit modern, more modern, right? So the bathroom, completely redone. That's one of the quick wins: fixing the bathroom, fixing the kitchen, retile, repaint, curb appeal. Those would be, for me, the 5 things that are critical for a flip. Creating some nice lighting, making everything like white and clean, and this is the kind of, if you look here on the right, this is the kind of property that a young couple will probably pay premium price for, because it kind of fits their needs. Keeping it nice and clean. Right, so that's really simple ways of appreciating through renovation. There's other ways you can do it. Right, you can obviously renovate, put in new features. You can add additional rooms. You can build cottages at the back. You can, convert the house into student accommodation. That's another way in which you could add value. I know one of my students, what he does, and it's a very clever strategy, is he buys houses close to student accommodation. He converts it to student accommodation, changes the zoning, puts in 10 or 15 students, and then sells it for R1,000,000 more, because he can now justify a higher purchase price, because he's justified a much higher rental. By taking a residential house and turning it into student accommodation, he's made his strategy flipping in that way. So he changes the zoning, changes the strategy, sells it to an investor for quite a large profit. Change the zoning, so again, changing it to student accommodation or development. Subdividing, you buy a big piece of land or a house on a big plot, you subdivide, you sell off the piece of land, you keep the other house, you rent it out. That's another way you can do it. Development, but basically what you guys need to be looking at is adding value, right? Making it better, making it more attractive. So I'm going to stop here for a quick second and see if there are any questions. Lorato, does flipping require that we buy the property cash or through financing? Brilliant question. It's going to depend on a few things. All right. The banks have criteria. They want your affordability to be good. They want your credit score to be good. Assuming those are good, the third thing they're going to look at is the property itself. Now, if the property is old, but it's in decent condition, the bank will probably give you a loan. But if you're going for like a rundown, what we call a stinky, smelly house, where the windows are broken, the roof's kind of collapsing, the bank isn't going to touch it. That's when you need to go to like a commercial broker, like a Tough or a combined finance, where they'll fund you, but they're going to fund you at a more expensive rate. So yes, the banks will touch or will fund the purchase of the property if the property is in relatively good condition. Like that property I showed you, they'd probably give a decent loan on that. They won't loan you on the renovation cost, though. You'd have to take a personal loan, or you'd have to, go to a broker for that. Okay, Mashumi. For refurb costs, do you go with high finishes or basic? Another great question. It's going to depend on the market that you're servicing. So I'm going to show you some deals now, and you'll see the difference in finishing. So if you're going for your middle to high income suburban lifestyle, yeah, you're probably going to go for your higher class finishes. You're going to go for a brand new kitchen set, that kind of stuff. But if you're going for your lower income, maybe your inner city development, it's more about it being functional and clean as opposed to it being fancy. So I think, Mashumi, what I tend to do is I'll go and view 10, 15, 20 properties in the area of where I'm trying to locate a flip. So let's say I find a property that's run down. I'll go and look at the neighbors and a couple of houses along the street, and I'll see what their finishings are. Like if you're going in Kempton Park, for instance, there's some family suburbs where a pool is really important, an entertainment area is important, a large garden is important. So if I'm targeting and selling to a family, I'm going to make sure that those things are available, because that's what's going to push the parents to pay the premium price. All right. Let's see here. On offers, do you stick with fixed rand value or percentage on offers? I'm not exactly sure what you're asking there. I assume you're asking what discount do you go for? I tend to go for a 15 to 20% discount. Obviously, the higher the discount, the better. If you can get a 100% discount, you've got a great deal. But how many owners are going to sell at a 100% discount? So it's a balancing act to, yes, 15 to 20%, I find it's a good enough discount where I tend to make a bit of money, but I also am able to convince the owner to take on that loss. CZ, how do you deal with capital gains tax? Well, you pay it. One thing you can do is you can put the first flip in your personal name. The first property that you buy and sell in your personal capacity is exempt from capital gains tax up to 2 million rand. So if you haven't done a flip before, definitely do it in your personal name, because all the profit you're going to make is exempt from tax. But once you start trading, you're in a company and you're making tons of money, you're gonna attract tax. That's just unfortunately how it is. Zama, can you please save this live? Yeah, we always record and post on YouTube. Okay, I'm going to jump back into the slides. Thanks for the questions so far. Let's have a look at a couple of live deals and let's just talk through them. So this guy is Nati. A lot of you guys know him because he's been on my webinars before. He's a bit of a tycoon, creative finance specialist. Here's a flip that he did in I don't know the exact area. It's Craig Hall or Parkhurst or Parkview. One of those suburbs in Joburg North. I think it's Craig Hall. Now the key thing that we're looking at here is it's obviously run down. Right, the garden gives it away. Overgrown gardens for me are one of the quickest ways in which you can spot a property that's in need of a bit of love. You can also see the paint on the outside hasn't been really renovated or worked on. And inside the finishings were just old, right? So this was the property that he targeted. First thing that he did was just put lipstick on a pig, make the outside look a little bit more appealing. Now, it's not a lot of work, just changing it to a nice, repainted it in gray. I love this little white finishing that he put. The gray and white combo is really nice. But just basically cleaning the outside, making the garden look a little bit more fresh, and repainting does a world of good. The second thing that he did was he fixed the kitchen. Right, kitchen, bathroom, retile, repaint, and curb appeal. Those are the 5 things. So here the kitchen was obviously this tiny little room, which is very common in old houses. The idea was to I can't think of the word, compartmentalize. Yeah, I think you guys know what I mean. To put one room, kitchen, everything needed to be in its own compartment, separated. That was the idea back in the day as to what a good house looks like. Nowadays, we like open flowing houses. So what he did is he ripped out the wall, put in a nice little centerpiece, redid the kitchen, nice and fancy. That's where you're going to put the bulk of your investment, of your renovation budget. There he is on the outside, again, just repainting, retiling. He had to do quite a lot of work on the roof. You can see here on the left that there used to be these window shutters. He removed that, opened it up. Those wooden shutters were horrible. So he just put a nice open patio leading into the pool. Obviously, the pool here looks horrible. I don't have a photo of it on the after, but that was obviously fixed. If we look at the numbers of this deal, asking price of 1.2, purchase price 850. Boom. Now 1.2 for a 3-bedroom in Craig Hall is already, if you know the Craig Hall area, that's a huge discount. He then furthered that discount with an offer of 850. So that was great. He had legal costs and holding costs. He refurbed it for about 380, about 400,000, and the rest was selling costs, the estate agent fees. So in the deal for 1.45, sold it for just under 1.8 million and made a profit of 340. I think it took him 6 months from it transferring into his name to selling. He works for Standard Bank, and he got a nice competitive loan there from them. Or actually, I think he actually used a partner on this one. I'll have to chat to him to ask him. But yeah, that's an example of a really nice deal. And that's the perfect market for me. Craig Hall, you're in the high income area, overgrown garden, old house that's really dilapidated. It needs some lipstick and some makeup to look nice. But once you fix it up, you'll attract a young couple or a new buyer who's willing to pay the premium price. The next couple of guys that have done a flip that I know is Dave and Jess. They are both professional architects. They're a power couple. I worked with them a couple of years ago, and this was the first flip that they did. So this is in an area called Killarney, it's similar to Craig Hall. I don't know exactly where it is, but it's also Joburg, sort of central area. The left is the before, the right is the after. So what they did, which I really liked, is they did a live-in flip. So they moved into the property, and slowly over time they put in their own furniture. They ripped out all the carpets and put this nice parquet flooring. They repainted everything. They changed the finishings. Look at this light bulb versus that one. So really nice touch-ups. And they're architects, right? You can kind of see by the style. I mean, these paintings, for instance. I'm the kind of guy that will just put painting all on the same, level, where they put it a little bit lower to create that like creative, artistic thing, So, I mean, when you walked into this property, you felt like you were walking into an apartment in New York City, and that's how they were able to fetch that premium price. Kitchen, same thing. You can see on the left that the kitchen was, they had a wall here. They ripped out the wall, open plan, nice centerpiece. So here is where the door is. You walk in, open plan kitchen, lead into the lounge and bedrooms. Really nice. And in the bathroom, they did a little bit of work, Numbers on this one, asking price 1.65. They got it at 1.4. They had quite a bit of legal costs and holding costs. They also put, about 350 into the property. Now this Neti's deal was a 3-bedroom house, and he put the same amount of money that this couple put into a 2-bedroom flat. All right. Because the finishings that they went for were a lot higher than the finishings that Neti went for. Neti was more looking for, he did do a lot of work on the kitchen, but it was more about retile, repaint. Where here they did a lot more construction on the bathroom and on the kitchen, and they invested more into a smaller space because they went for higher finishings, nicer cupboards, that kind of stuff. Market value 2.4 million. They made just over 400,000 Rand in profit, which is quite cool. And this is the final one. Now this is quite a new student of mine. Her name is Anae. She's a mother of twins, and she's an absolute machine. And she did something that I didn't think was possible. And that's why I love property, and I love property coaching, because as much as I help other people also have great ideas, and they teach me, So one of the things that Anae and I often talk about is investing in inner cities and low income areas like the Bereas and the Heilbrows and all of that stuff. And she asked me if it's possible to do a flip. in one of these areas, and I said to her, "You crazy, man? That's just not possible. Like, it's the rental market. That's why you go there because you can get good rent." And I am excited to say that she had proved me wrong. So she did a flip in an area known as Berea Park, which is kind of like the Berea of Pretoria. Here on the left, you can see where it is in the map. Um, it is kind of your inner city, your Pretoria CBD. On the right-hand side of some of the properties, you can see it's like blocks of flats, you know. So this is the property that she bought, asking 375, a two-bedroom property in Lancaster. And the left is the before, the right is the after. She followed the exact same process, you know, just repaint, retile, clean it up. The nice thing about doing a flip in this inner city kind of vibe is that your renovation budget is minimal. You know, the last two deals that we saw, the budget for renovation was 300, 400, 500,000. I think she put in like 60 grand to renovate this property, you know. So again, just nice gray finishings, cleaning the tiles, just repainting. The kitchen, I mean, this on the left is what it looked like. Absolutely horrible. I don't know how people can live like this. And look at what you did. You know, not the nicest finishings. I mean, I actually look at this and I think it's quite decent. It's not what you'd maybe expect in a Santon type property, but it's clean, it's functional, it's quite designy in my opinion. You know, it's really nice. Let's look at the numbers. Asking price 375. She got it at 270. Cha-ching. Legal and holding costs, refurb of 60 grand. So that's all she spent to fix it up. And I got, she told me that she got an offer last week of 473, making a profit of 103,000 Rand. That is pre-commission of the estate agent and pre-tax, because I don't know exactly, you know, what she's agreed. She just told me these high-level numbers. But I mean, guys, 100,000 Rand for a flip took her 3 months to do because there were such minimal renovations. You know, I've never done it. I've never done it in the inner city, but you know, there's proof in the pudding that it does work. Okay, let's take on a few more questions. Okay, Octavia, if financing, will flipping not expose an investor to bond cancellation fees? Yes. So, another good question. Yes, you guys are on fire tonight. When you cancel a bond within because the banks only start making money on bonds, I think it's 1.5 to 2 years in. So they are going to put a penalty or some sort of restriction pre that, because if they just let everybody cancel their bonds whenever, the bank wouldn't be sustainable. So I don't think the cost is really that expensive. You know, I think you're looking at like 6 to 10K for your bond cancellation fees. But that is an expense that you would include in your numbers, and you'd add that as part of your legal fees. Okay. Pumla, the mortgage installment cost you include in the holding costs? Yes. So if you're buying this with a bond and you have to pay 5 grand per month back to the bank, you would include that in your holding costs. So if you're holding the property for 6 months and 5 grand is your bond repayments, you would add 30,000 to your holding costs. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. In Tumeleng, what are tax implications on this type of deal? Yeah, so your main tax that's going to be applicable when you're looking at the flipping strategy is capital gains. So the way that SARS looks at it is they say, as soon as you make a capital gain on an investment, we want a portion of that capital gain. Now, depending on the structure that you use to invest, if you're buying in your personal name, company, or trust, the capital gains tax rate changes. I stand under correction. Please go and check this out on your own. But I think it's 22.4% if you're in a company. I could be wrong, so please don't take that as gospel. But yeah, let's say 20 to 25% of the gain that you make will be taxed and payable to SARS. Michelle, do you need to have a real estate license to do flips? If so, how can you get that license? No. You where accreditation comes in is when you're looking to make a commission off a sale. So like an estate agent has to have an NQF 4 or 5 to be able to practice. Where things get tricky for us as investors is if you're looking to source a deal, so you're looking to find a distressed seller and find a qualified buyer and bring them together and make a little spread off the sale. Technically speaking, that is illegal because you need a license to do that. But you can, with the right attorney, you can do it in a legal way. In terms of flipping, no, you don't need any license to do that. Okay, one more question. Okay, Pumla, I've answered that. Hi, TJ. Do you advise when starting your own first flips to do it in your own name? And when do you suggest to set up a business entity? Yeah. Good question. So the first flip I would recommend if you're doing your first property investment is do it in your personal name. If you're looking to flip. If you're looking to rent, do it in a company. But if you're looking to flip your first one, do it in your personal name because SARS gives a really nice, juicy tax incentive that says the first 2 million Rand worth of profit that you make in your first primary residence that you flip is tax-free. So that's the only real reason I would say do your first flip in your personal name. And then, I highly recommend getting into a company structure and the company structure owned by a trust. So the trust owns the shares within a company. Makes the most sense. Okay, great questions. Keep them coming. I'm going to go to the next content piece. The 3 keys to remote investing. So, the intention or what I'm hoping to share with everybody on the call and through my YouTube channel is that you don't have to necessarily be in the region or next door to the property to invest in it. Yes, it's nice to view the property. It's not a necessity to invest. So the 3 keys to remote investing is you have to understand or know your area. You have to be able to do due diligence, and you need a qualified and trusted team to make it happen. So let's look at area research first. Now, when it comes to area research, either you need to be a specialist or you need a partner, a power team member, or someone that you trust who's an expert in the area. Now, I was lucky enough to grow up in Pretoria, and then I moved to Joburg, and I stayed there for like 10 years while I was working at Dimension Data and whatever. So I know Joburg really well. So even though now I'm living in Cape Town, I know which areas in Joburg I can trust for certain strategies. If you're, let's say, staying in Cape Town and you want to invest in Joburg, but you don't know Joburg, I would either recommend that you go there for a week or so, you go and meet all estate agents and you go and try and understand the market, or you work with a coach or with a partner, someone who knows that area. Because if you don't know the area, you're going to buy blindly, and that's very risky. If we look at Joburg, for instance, there are certain key areas where flips work really well. Your north, your east, even going towards Pretoria, your Midrand areas are fantastic for flipping because there tends to be a lot of equity in those areas. When we're looking at your rental market, your multi-lets work well in the east and in the south. Sometimes in the CBD central areas, but that's more your buy-to-let market. And then student accommodation obviously is close to wherever the students are. So in this case, Parktown, Braamfontein, central kind of thing. So this is a quick snapshot of what you could look at if you wanted to go into Joburg. It's not a very detailed map. I would say that if you don't know the area, don't invest there. Please either speak to a professional or go and do the due diligence yourself. I do have a video on my YouTube channel. It's 8 series. It's all about area research. So it talks about, Lightstone, how to find a good area. Go look at those videos. They will give you some tips and techniques to qualify an area. But please, you need to know your area or have someone that you trust who knows the area. Remote due diligence. Now, this is really, really important. In my mind, there are a minimum of 10 steps you need to take to qualify a good deal. Starting with number 1, the gross yield, right, which is your annual rental divided by purchase price. It'll give you an indication whether an area might be cash flow positive or not. That's only applicable for the rental market. For your flipping market, gross yield doesn't really make sense unless you're looking at an exit strategy. The second step is to analyze the deal, right? So, go through the myapp.property app or use your Excel spreadsheet, whatever it is that you use, and analyze the deal to determine what is your offer price to get your required return. I usually then sign the OTP on that first level analysis. You might think that that's a bit risky, but in your OTP, you just need to have some very clear exit clauses. If you've got things like subject to a 2-week due diligence period, subject to partner approval, subject to a building inspection, all of these different things, you're able to exit out of a deal quite comfortably. So what I'll do is I'll analyze a deal, I'll find my offer price, I'll get the deal sort of secured by signing an OTP, and then I will request proofs. Okay. Step 4, peer review. Either get your coach and your mentor, if you have that, to kind of look through the deal with you. Get a friend that you trust, an accountant maybe. Get somebody else to look at the deal, because our tendency as human beings, especially when we're eager and we're excited, is we'll sometimes manipulate the numbers to make the deal work. And I'm definitely to blame here. My first deal I did buy way over market price because I just wanted to be a property investor, you know. So sometimes getting a fresh pair of eyes on it is really important. Arrange a viewing. This is step 5. If we're looking at the remote side, obviously that's not applicable, but if you can, arrange a viewing, and that's when I would get proofs, proof of income, proof of expense. Again, just making sure that I understand everything about the asset that I'm buying. Then I will request zoning reports. So if I'm looking at like a commercial property, I want to make sure it's zoned for commercial. If I'm buying a student accommodation, it needs to be zoned as a commune minimum. You know, those are the kind of things that I'm looking for. You also want, as part of your zoning, you want to get access to building financials. Not building financials, sorry. Building plans. Building plans. Reports, TPN, Lightstone, all of these things, and then building inspection. Now, if you can't arrange a viewing, you can get a building inspector to go and view the property for you and provide you with a comprehensive report that says these are the issues that need to be fixed, and here's the quote to fix them. So when I go through the flip that I did remotely, I didn't go and see the property. I didn't go and check that everything was okay. I just had a building inspector go and take very detailed pictures and give me a highly detailed quote of what needs to be done. You know, but what I do understand that I'm in this game for a while. So if me not seeing a property and doing a deal makes sense. For your first deal, your first 2, 3, 4 deals, I would definitely recommend you do it in the area that you know and you trust, so that you can go and feel it, see it, taste it. You know, you can be there and you can, because I think it would be really scary to buy a property without seeing it, especially your first one. And then management. This is where a power team comes in. If you're going to try and manage this yourself, you're not becoming financially free. You're just buying another job. So proofs of income, really easy to get access to once you've signed an OTP. This is all digital. You don't have to be anywhere to get this. Proof of expense, you can get insurance bills, power bills, utility bills. You can get annual financial statements. You can get bank statements if they'll let you get access to them, which would be cool. These are the plans that actually Tumi got these plans for us. So we're buying a multi-let of 6 units. And one of the key considerations that we need to make is, can this property be sectionalized so that we can get competitive home loan financing on it? So Tumi, being my partner who's based in Johannesburg and someone who I trust, she's the one who went to go and collect these documents, because you can't really scan this. The document's just too big. So that's where, leveraging other people becomes really important. The building inspection. So if you can't do the viewing, if you can't get to the location where the property is, get a trusted partner to go in. I use a company called Gauteng Property Inspections. I highly recommend them. The lady who owns the company is Mauricia Robus. She's just great. She's a great builder. She's got the experience. She's incredibly detailed. This was a building that we purchased in the beginning of the year. This is 9 2-bedrooms. She gave us a 200-page report where there were 3 of these images per page. So 3 times 4, that's 120 images, photos that she'd taken. Guys, I can tell you that when I go and view a property, I don't view it in the same way that she views it. I don't go into that detail. If I go look at a block of like 7 units, I'll just look at 1 or 2 and I'll get a sense of what I think the rest of the units look like. So I hope this excites you, that it is possible to live in one province and invest in another province, because you have people like Mauricia who could go and do that inspection for you. Again, go check out my YouTube channel, because I've got a whole bunch of, how you can do due diligence using Lightstone and TPN and all of that. The third key success criteria to doing a remote investment is the power team. And this is probably the most important one. Yes, you must know your area and you must run the numbers. That's important. But if you don't have the power team in place, you're going to have to be the power team. So there are 9 people that you need in property. Okay. Property coach, mentor, advisor, somebody who's maybe done it before that can show you the ropes. An estate agent, yeah, it's important to have an estate agent, someone who's bringing you a regular flow of deals. This could be a regular estate agent, it could be a sourcing agent. Builder and architect, very important. Building inspector, if you don't have a builder or architect, usually your building inspector will have one or will know of somebody. So that's definitely somewhere you can go. An accountant, very important. Not only as someone you can share your deal with, but someone who's going to manage your financials and do your taxes and help you with your structures and all of that. A finance broker or a bank or a bond originator, an insurance broker, and then finally an attorney. These are 9 people that you need in your property business to be able to manage your investment. If you are going for the rental route, you do need a letting agent or a rental agent, someone who is collecting the rent from the tenants, who's managing the evictions, that kind of stuff is really, really important. So that's only if you're doing the rental strategy. If you're doing the flipping strategy, you don't really need a letting agent. Okay, let me take through some last questions and then I will get through my last section. Okay, Lorato, would you assist us in identifying areas to buy in? So if you want to do rental deals, it's really simple. You have to find lower income, high density areas where the gross yield is 15% plus. If you don't know what gross yield is, just go check out my channel. There's tons of videos on that. It will tell you which areas will make cash flow sense. So any of your CBDs in Gauteng, your Pretoria, Joburg CBD, Sunnyside, Hillbrow, Yeoville, that kind of stuff works well. If you're looking for student accommodation, you want to be within walking distance or a short drive from universities. So if we're looking again at Joburg being the area that I know, you're looking at Vredendorp, Brixton, Auckland Park, West Dean, those kind of areas. In Cape Town, you're looking at Woodstock, Observatory, Rosebank. I don't really know KZN and Bloemfontein too well. If you're looking for flipping can work anywhere. To be honest, it's less about the area; it's more about the motivation and the value that you can add. I mean, we saw Ane do a flip in the inner city in a CBD, and we see Eti doing one in Craig Hall Park. So for me, it's not really a specific area where you can do a flip. It's about getting the right price, getting that massive discount, and being able to add the value. Okay. On average, what is the cost of a building inspection? Okay, what did it cost you? So, I mean, I don't know the exact price, but I think it was like 12 to 15,000, which was 6 units, 6 3 bedrooms. I know she's also done a inspection for one of my students in Berea, and I think she charged 4 grand for 1 unit. So it depends. If you're going to send her to Hillbrow to view one property, she's probably going to charge you like 4 to 5 grand. But if you send her to go and view 6 properties in one go, it's better time for her money, so she'll give you a discount. Then it'll be like 2-3 grand per unit. Bongani, hi TJ. Which area in Pretoria is good for flipping strategy and best for rental accommodation? So I don't know if you were asking this to me or to TJ, but which areas are good in Pretoria for flipping? Again, there's not a specific area. You definitely want to go to your older areas. So if I look at Pretoria East, Fairy Glen would probably work. Moreleta Park, that could work in terms of rental accommodation. Sunnyside, Arcadia, very good areas. Also, there's some student accommodation hubs there by Hatfield if you're looking for rental. Alexa, in terms of certification for electrical work and plumbing, how does that come into play when doing a flip yourself? Okay, good question. So when you are selling a property, you have to provide a COC, a certificate of compliance, which is essentially getting a handyman to come into the property to test the electricals and the plumbing. If there's no work that needs to be done, i.e. the electricals and plumbing are in order, it's going to cost you $2,000, $2,500 for that inspection / report. The electrician might come back and say, you know what, you need to do this, this, and this. It's going to cost you $10,000, and then I will award you this certificate, right? Now, when you're doing a flip, I'm presuming that, let's say you're buying the property in June and you're going to sell it in December. When you buy the property in June, the previous seller has to provide you with a COC, which is usually valid for like 12 to 18 months. So I have seen cases where an investor has taken the COC they received from the seller and used that when they sold the property. So when you're doing a short-term flip, you're probably not too worried about the certification because you're going to buy it certified. And as long as you don't go in there and, with a sledgehammer and break the electricals, you're probably not going to have to pay much other than that $2,000 call-out fee. Msizi, do you have those suspensive conditions? I would like to read through them. Sure, of course I do. I think you guys can still see my screen. So I am putting everything here on Google Drive. I'll find it now, but yeah, I will show you what my exit clauses look like at the end of the session. Sabelo, do you need cash to flip, or what type of loans can one use? I heard of hard money loan. Okay, so cash is preferable. Again, it depends on the condition of the property that you're buying. If you're buying a property that is breaking apart, yeah, the banks probably aren't going to touch it. They're not going to give you a competitive loan or any kind of loan, and that's where cash is needed. Hard loan, I assume that's going to like a commercial bank and getting an uncompetitive rate. Yeah, if you go to the likes of like Tough or Great when you're looking at big developments, like you want to go into Braamfontein, buy a building and then convert it into student accommodation, then they're perfect for that. But doing a small flip, their rates are just not going to be competitive enough. Okay, Octavia, if I get a private investor instead of the bank, what would 12 to 15% interest if I pay back in less than 12 months? What would 12 to 15% interest? I'm not sure I understand the question, Octavia. Do you want to maybe just reword it? I do think that 12 to 15% is what most investors would be willing to accept. You obviously have to include that in your holding costs. And as long as the deal still makes financial sense and the return is still what you want it to be, I would say, yeah, go for it. Okay, quickly to Msizi's point. I don't know why my thing is not loading. I'd like to show you what my OTPs look like. Okay, so here are this is pretty much a stock standard document that I take to every single OTP. So when I sign an offer to purchase, be it a block of flats or student accommodation or Berea, I always put in that OTP that this offer is subject to Addendum 1 and all the clauses contained in Addendum 1. So one of my clauses is a 2-week due diligence period, which gives me, the buyer, time to conduct a detailed feasibility on the property. So TPN, Lightstone, collecting and reviewing proofs. The agent or seller must provide proof regarding the property's income and expense. So I want bank statements or rent rolls. A minimum of 6 months of evidence must be provided, and expenses, a minimum of 3 months must be provided. If I'm looking at Berea or Hillbrow and I want to understand what the risk of that building is, I'll ask for the annual financial statements of the building. And then here, a nice little sneaky one, subject to partner approval, nice and vague. I can go back to the agent and say, you know what, my girlfriend or my friend or my partner said no. I don't have to really give much reason. What you want to use the OTP for is securing the offer price so that you can do your due diligence. If anything pops up that you're unaware of, you don't like, or scares you, you've got the exit ability to get out of the deal. Okay, let's finish off. Okay, so let me just show you my first remote flip. Now, this is actually the first property that I ever bought. This was my property in 2013, 12, one of those years. I used my salary at Dimension Data. I bought this at a pretty good discount. I was lucky enough to find a really motivated seller. In terms of the renovations, it was really minor. I left the property in a pretty good condition because I stayed here for 6, 7 years, and then last year I moved to Cape Town to follow my girlfriend. So I started renting it out to a friend of mine who ended up growing weed in one of the rooms. And silly, you can't really rent to family or friends. It's risky. Anyway, so the property wasn't in horrible condition. It just needed a bit of a touch up. So you can see here on the left, this was the building inspector's first photo. This was Marissa. She said, new oven, new stove, please can we do that? So we just got a nice new oven, a new stove, $5,000, another grand to install it. And then, just some like touch-ups, putting some mosaic there, cleaning up, that kind of stuff. Some small things with the taps and the tiles. I'm not going to go into too much detail. This is what it looked like basically when we were ready to sell. So it wasn't in bad condition. We just repainted the whole thing, cleaned up a few things. I didn't invest a whole lot into the renovation because the property wasn't in terrible condition. It just needed to be touched up and made look pretty so that I could get the highest price possible. In terms of the numbers, so I bought this property for about 600, 650. The outstanding bond that I had on the property when I sold it was 360, 80 grand into the renovation, 60 grand selling cost, the COC plus the agent's fee. I sold it for 950 and made 450,000 rand in profit. And I haven't seen this property for 18 months, almost 2 years. So I know I lived in the property, so it's maybe a bit different. I didn't do a completely remote flip, i.e. never seen the property before. But I have bought buildings where I haven't actually viewed the property, and I've just relied on Marissa's report to give me detail because her report is going to be more detailed than what I can do. I don't know what damp looks like. I mean, I can identify damp if I see it, but I don't know what it's going to cost to fix. One of the things that Marissa picked up on the building that me and Tumi are buying is that there might be an asbestos problem. I mean, unless you've been trained to identify what asbestos looks like or how to fix it or what it costs. I mean, Anyway, one last thing here at the bottom, tax. So this 450 has got 0 capital gains tax applicable because I bought this and sold this in my personal name. After I bought this property, I started buying properties in companies, but this one has got 0 tax implications, which is a massive cha-ching. So that is the agenda. We ran through how to analyze a flip. We went through 3 live case studies of inner city versus suburban. I hope that you know how to do due diligence and inspections, renovations, and management remotely. And you also saw how I made a bit of profit on a deal. I'm going to just finish now and take the last few questions. Just for those of you who are new, we have created a membership model. And part of this membership model, if you are a coaching student of mine, please just message me because you do get access to this for free. The membership model is a whole bunch of educational content, plus you get access to all of my templates. So I've got an offer to purchase template, shareholders agreement, NDAs, acknowledgement of debts, all of these templates that I use all the time. They've been drafted by professional attorneys and cost anywhere between 5,000 and 10,000 Rand. So you get access to that. You also get access to all of my templates, my due diligence templates, my business templates, how to put together a business plan, how to put together an investor proposal. I've also put a bunch of financial templates up there, so Excel spreadsheets that I've built with income, expenses, deal analysis, all of that stuff, plus access to advanced content. So there's a lot that you get access to being a member of our property bootcamp, and it's only 100 Rand per month. As mentioned, if you are already a coaching student, please just message me and I'll send you the promo code. You get access to all of this for free. So I'm going to ask Apollo, let me just make it available. Oh, there we go. So if you click this little button here, it'll take you to our membership page. If you do want to know anything else about what we offer calculators, learning, coaching. I've got a great just YouTube following and lots of free content there, so go check it out. propertybootcamp.co.za/start here. Otherwise, click that little button below. Okay, let's finish off with the last 3 questions. Buti, how or where do I get a mentor in Pretoria? I can help you. I do know Pretoria quite well. other than myself, I don't have anybody to recommend. I mean, I could maybe send me an email after this, and I can reach out to some of my colleagues to see if anybody. I don't know a reputable coach in Pretoria that I'm willing to hand over to you. If that makes sense. Sabelo, I know which fishes to use when renovating to avoid overcapitalizing the user. How do you know which finishes to use when renovating to avoid overcapitalization? Okay, yeah. So a key challenge to the um, flipping strategy is when you put too much renovation in and you overcapitalize. So if you're buying in Hillbrow and you put um, a brand new kitchen set of 30,000 Rand into the property, you probably overcapitalized. It means you put in too many renovations to justify the resale value. So to answer your question, Isabella, you've got to look at what is the market that you're targeting. If you're targeting your lower income market, your inner city CBDs, you're going for the finishings that Ane went for. She put about 60,000 into a 2-bedroom apartment. It's a repaint, retile, a nice new, simple, functional kitchen. That's the word you've got to be thinking of. What's functional that these people need? Now you're looking at Midrand or Waterfall Estate in Midrand, or you're looking at Sandton, or you're looking at Bryanston, like you're looking at Greenpoint, Sea Point, or Umhlanga. Well, then you need to go all out. Then you need to be putting in brand new kitchens because the people that you're targeting are going to be expecting that. So the answer is really to understand who you're trying to sell to, and then using those finishes that are applicable. Can you recommend a reputable building inspection company in Cape Town? So it's interesting, even though I live in Cape Town, I found that Cape Town's not a good market for rentals. It's a much better flipping market or capital appreciation market. I have slowly started looking at the student accommodation market. I've viewed a couple of deals and I've signed 1 or 2 OTPs, but we haven't gotten to a point where I've needed to put a building inspector in place. So I don't have anybody to recommend right now, but send me an email and I can put you in contact with a builder in Cape Town. I don't have a building inspector, but I've got a reliable builder. So just pop me an email and I can get you contact there. Okay, Denise, you mentioned, let me just make this a question quickly. You mentioned buy to rent, look for high density, low income, but isn't the risk of non-payment high then? Yeah, great question, Denise. If you're looking at your areas like Hillbrow specifically, high risk of tenant delinquency, but it's also where it makes financial sense. So whenever I get this question, my answer is, what do you prefer between 2 evils? The one evil is you invest in a low income, high density area, and 1 month a year you have a vacancy, either because you have to evict the tenant or because you're waiting to fill the other tenant. So you work on an 8% vacancy rate because for 1 month of the year your property is going to be empty, versus buying in a Fourways Midrand area where you have full occupancy, you never miss a payment, but you always have a negative cash flow. So that for me is the question. One of the lesser evils. Either you're going to go for the Berea where you know that the risk is high, but you're going to make cash flow 11 months of the 12 months, or you're going to buy in Fourways, you're never going to make cash flow, and you're never going to have a tenant problem. That's for me, it's more risky to invest in a Fourways investment because I know I'm going to be losing money every month. I'm going to have to fund it, at least within the lower income market. Yes, I'm going to have tough months and I'm going to have bad tenants and I'm going to have to evict and I'm going to, those things. But you put all of that into your numbers and you're still going to have a positive cash flow and you're still going to have a good return. The one big issue that you have to be aware of in the low income market is that you're not going to get capital appreciation. So in Fourways, yes, you have to, or in your suburban areas, yes, you have to fund the property every month, but there is a chance that you'll participate in long-term growth, i.e. capital gains or capital appreciation. In the low-income market, that's just not a thing. Okay, let's look at the polls. So 55% of people are interested in property flips, 1 in multi-let. I think that's probably to me who answered that. A couple of votes in student accommodation and buy to let. What is the biggest challenge? Money and finding deals. Okay. Money and finding deals. That's interesting. Okay, guys, I don't see any other questions. If you do still have a question, now's the time. Please pop it in the question bar or into the chat function. Otherwise, it is 7 o'clock. I'm aware that you probably have family to go to and food to make. So if you do need to jump off, you're more than welcome. Thank you for being here. This has probably been my most fun webinar, just in terms of the amount of questions you guys gave and the inputs. I've met some really remarkable people through these webinars, and CZ comes to mind, helping me with the app, and Tumi doing an investment together, Rob and Sel becoming coaching students and partners. It's quite cool. This is the 31st webinar, by the way, that I've hosted with Khapolo. So we've been doing this almost for 2 years now. We started in the beginning of lockdown because we wanted to create another channel to be able to connect with people. Nondomiso, thanks for being here, and thanks everybody for joining. I will stay on for a couple more minutes if there are any other questions, but otherwise, until next time, happy investing.